Hello, football fans, and welcome to episode 12 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we take a look back at the action from the Premier League over the weekend, including the Hornets stinging the Canaries to register their first win of the season. Liverpool win the battle at the top and do wins for Chelsea, and Leicester make them serious title contenders. Pete looks to close the gap with another teaser. Chris will no doubt have another Chelsea stat in the wonders of white, and we have a first in our FA Cup feature. There'll probably be some chat about VAR as well. So here we go with this week's episode of View from the Sideline podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 12 of View from the Sideline podcast. I'm back, so it's Rich here. Chris is here as well. How you doing, Chris?
Welcome back, mate. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, refreshed after my week off. Didn't do a lot, but obviously listened to the podcast, which was great. Liam did a good job. Felt a bit sorry for him, really, having the Liverpool Villa game.
Yeah,
bit of a kick to the stomach, bless him.
Yeah,
to have to review that.
We'll get him on again at some point.
We will do.
When Villa win. When Villa win, he can come on.
When will that be? That's a bit harsh. That could be a while.
Yeah.
That could be a while. Yeah, maybe. So as we said in the intro, there's lots to talk about this week. Lots of goals, lots of action, lots of talking points. VAR's back as always, so we'll be taking a look at that. So, but we'll start as we always do with Pete's teaser. Just got to say, well done for last week, Chris. With the Pochettino guess. When I was listening to the podcast, it was almost tense waiting for you guys to answer it.
Yeah, we had the two I think nailed on, but it was just trying to guess that the third one. And then something just crept into my mind that it might be him. So yeah,
I think it's 7-4 overall now that we're leading. So anyway, let's see what Pete's got for us this week.
In the history of the Premiership, who is West Ham's top scorer of all time with 47 goals?
Okay, thanks, Pete. I'm not sure I know that, Chris. I
don't
know about you.
West Ham knowledge, so
it's almost like the first club-specific one that we've had.
You'll probably be able to throw a few names in, but like this is gonna be one of those. If you know it, you're gonna know it. But if you don't support West Ham, I don't think you're gonna know. So
no, we'll have to have a think as we go through. But yeah, so we'll come back to the teaser at the end of this week's episode. So we'll go into the Premier League review. I think there's only one place to start really, which is Anfield. So the game Sunday afternoon, Liverpool 3, Man City 1. Strange game, really. Lots of talking points, lots of sort of different opinions on the decisions. I'm not sure what you think, Chris, but when I saw the team, especially from the City perspective, the back five, because I mean we'll put Bravo in obviously because he's not first choice with City.
No.
They looked a bit weak. I think there were signs with the team selection that they might struggle.
Oh, definitely. I think the first sort of 20 minutes showed them actually struggling at the back, trying to defend obviously against Firmino, Mane, and Salah. You know, they did struggle a lot. But I think that it highlights a weakness within that team. I think obviously with the long-term injury to Laporte has obviously harmed them quite badly.
But you've got if you look at that back four, but you've got Cancelo and Otamendi on the bench. So I mean that they're two. Otamendi's probably got a mistake in him, and he's not the sort of most graceful centre back you'll ever see. But Cancelo came in the summer, and Otamendi's been there a while. I mean, it's not as if he's new to the league. So
obviously they had Angelino. I think it was only his second start for City as well, playing at left back as well. So yeah,
where do you stand on the penalty? Because I mean, this is the early decision,
so
and then
the.
I mean, if City get it and City score, is the game different? But they don't get it. Liverpool got the other end and score, and the game sort of changes.
So I think the main thing is that you've seen them given this season. I think in a couple of games this season we have seen handballs like that. But I think it's the old thing that obviously play to the whistle as such and carry on with the game, because obviously they've gone straight at the other end and what a strike from Fabinho it was as well. So I don't, not many would have saved that, but
no, I mean it's a great strike, but I mean it's one of those that I don't. It's one of those situations where the ball goes right from one end to the other. So City have got time to clear the ball, defend the ball, or whatever to stop the strike. But in my opinion, it was a penalty, and I completely agree with your point. I think if you look at from a consistency basis of decisions that have been given this year or this season since VAR came in, then I think that's got to be given as a penalty. I mean, there's been so many differing views. I mean, mainly from Liverpool fans, from what I've heard about how it hits Bernardo Silva's hand first of all, and then sort of flicks up onto Trent's hand. And I mean, I don't know if we're sort of splitting hairs there or not, or whether it's just the fact that mainly seems to be coming from Liverpool fans. But I was surprised it wasn't given, and I'm not sure it necessarily changes the match, because if City go 1-0 up, you're and that early on, you're not writing Liverpool off, are you?
No, they were. I think on the whole, in the first half, City were poor, especially going forward, which is unlike them. Aguero had a couple of chances, throughout the game where any other day he probably would have scored those.
Do you know he's never scored at Anfield?
I didn't know that.
In 11 games, that's covering City, and I think he played there a couple of times for Atletico Madrid as well. Yeah, in 11 matches, he's never scored a goal at Anfield.
I think Liverpool kind of used the vulnerability of City's defence to their advantage well. Obviously, Salah scoring the header as well, not too long after they'd already gone 1 up. So
that was an unbelievable cross from Robinson, wasn't it? I mean, that is. If you're going to put it anywhere for him to score, that's where it needed to go.
And to be fair, Liverpool could have, there was you could have picked out a few more chances of Liverpool had in the first half, and they could have easily gone in at half-time 4, maybe 5 up, But I think it really did show the sort of difference between the teams this season, and if you weren't a football fan and you watched that game for the first time, I think you could probably guess which team it was that was currently top of the league and at that time 6 points ahead. So,
well, I mean, I think that City didn't take. I thought it was quite an even game, but it was the effectiveness in the final third. Every time Liverpool got into that position, they tested Bravo. That they made him make a save. I think the one thing that City didn't do is they didn't make Alisson make that save. There was a few chances with Aguero where he misses the target or he drags it across goal, and I kind of thought that was one of the main differences.
Yeah,
but
to be fair, when after they had scored, Man City had eventually scored a goal. They were the better team for the last sort of 10-15 minutes.
I mean, yeah, if they got another goal with 5 minutes to go, I mean, that would have been a cracking
as
finish.
well, where the ball comes in on the floor and Jesus almost tries to spin and kick it, and it's completely gone past him in the end. But if that goes in, well, you never say never, but I thought Liverpool looked comfortable. I think throughout.
Yeah, I mean,
especially
I agree.
Defensively, I think
I think they deserve. They deserve to win. I think there's a lot of City fans that are saying that they sort of disagree with that, but I think that's almost a bit of blind loyalty, really.
Yeah.
I can't justify City deserving that to win that game, but So that win for Liverpool, with the other results from the weekend, their lead is extended to 8 points at the top. 9 points again clear of City now. So we'll move on to the team that's actually in second place, so Leicester. So the late kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah.
Certainly not a shock as far as I'm concerned.
I was going to say that to you. I think. Would you have expected Arsenal to actually get anything from this game?
No, I mean this was one of the games that was in our predictions, and I think you and I both went for a 2-1 win for Leicester. So I'm not surprised by it. I think Arsenal played how Arsenal have played this season. One shot on target in the whole game. Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe. To be honest with you, it's almost as if all three of them have gone missing over the last couple of weeks.
When you look at those three on paper, it's frightening to see how much talent they've got between them, but it just doesn't,
Even just the pace, the pace of those three is crazy. But with Arsenal, that's one win in the last 5 now. For them, and that win was the 1-0 against Bournemouth. So
did you see? I don't know if you saw Match of the Day too, but they showed a small video clip of an Arsenal fan saying that he thinks it's time for a change. This is already, but
I think there's a lot of fans saying that. There's 2 questions for me. I think that I was going to put to you that come out of this game. One is, should Emery go? And secondly, do you think Leicester can maintain this? There's a lot of comments that have been made over the weekend, and I actually agree with it. I think this Leicester team is better than the team that won the league.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's certainly got more potential, and it's more
I think the depth
exciting to watch.
The depth, and you say about excitement. The Vardy goal, you've got sort of like a one-touch pass going on inside the box. There's like 3 or 4 one-touch passes, and it ends up to him, and he plants at the back of the net. They do play exciting football under Brendan Rodgers, which this may seem hard. And Maddison's goal was really nice, well drilled sort of shot just outside the box.
But they're not missing Harry Maguire either. They've got the best defence in the league.
This is the problem. They're actually better without Maguire. And then you look at the problems at United.
Well, your mate at the back. He's having a blinding season. Your Turkish mate that I can't pronounce it either. So we need to give him a nickname.
But to be fair, of all the games I've seen Arsenal play this season, defensively, they weren't that bad on Saturday. I didn't think that they were. The 2 goals that Leicester did score were just down to it's good passing into the box and scoring a goal. But they weren't.
Yeah, but they didn't. But that's not Arsenal, is it? I don't think Arsenal going to Leicester and sort of almost shutting up shop and just having the one shot on target is
probably
what
the one
you expect
place
from them.
Want to go at the moment is Leicester.
No, I agree, and
just certainly a team I wouldn't want to be playing.
I don't have any sort of opinion either way if Unai Emery leaves Arsenal or not. It doesn't really make an awful lot of difference. I don't know who else they're going to get.
It's not the right time.
When you think they gave Wenger 20 odd years, they can't. Look at United. It's the same situation. They got rid of Moyes quick.
When Wenger was there, they were crying out for exciting players to be signed, and he has signed some good players. But we've been saying it for the last 4 or 5 seasons that the one thing Arsenal need is just some decent defence, because they just don't seem to have it. I'm not really too sure the thought process of bringing David Luiz in. I think if any Arsenal fan seen him at Chelsea, you know that he can be quite a liability, and he's known for the odd mistakes. So I don't really know the reason behind that.
No. And quickly, just with Leicester, can they maintain it?
I think they will. I honestly do. I think like you said, the squad that they've got is better than the one that won the league. I don't think they'll win the league, but I do think they'll finish somewhere in the top second, third, or fourth, which neither of us predicted at the start of the season.
No. And hats off to Brendan Rodgers. I mean, I wasn't his greatest fan, but you can't argue with it. But
he's got a lot to thank with Vardy. I think his performances are, it's the amount of goals he's scoring as well. I think it's key that they keep him fit, because you look at their other strikers, I don't really think they've got anyone else. I know that Perez can play up front, but he hasn't.
Well, I mean, not playing international football is probably helping him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
As well, to be honest. So, off to Stamford Bridge. So 6th win in a row. I suppose you want to take this one because Chelsea are so good. Blah 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 blah.
So that was the 6th win in a row, which is hasn't happened since Conte in 2017, when we had that 14 games in a row that we won, or something
from the start of the season. Was that from the start of the season?
No, we lost to Arsenal 3-0, and then he completely changed the formation, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
It was like watching a different team, but yeah. To be fair, like they dominated pretty much the whole game. Palace didn't really put up, not much going forward. They defended well. Cahill made a really, really good tackle towards the end of the first half.
I think that was almost Palace's game plan first half, wasn't it? It was almost just to nullify Chelsea.
They did catch us on the break a couple of times, but
that's what they'll do, because with Zaha, I mean that's kind of what they'll do, especially going away from home.
In time, and it's another clean sheet, which is I'm not used to at the moment, but there just seems to be it's almost like a freshness with the team. It feels like they want to play for the manager. And like last season with Sarri, there was a few murmurs of players not, really performing at their best. But every play, there's players like Kovacic who last season on his performances, I probably wouldn't have said to have bought him, but obviously they went ahead and bought him, and he's been one of the star players this season. He had another good game on the Saturday. Same with Mount and Abraham. I can't believe how many goals he scored this season already.
This is the one of the things that I think is working really well for Chelsea this year. You mentioned Kovacic, and then you've got Jorginho, Willian, sort of the players that are sort of there from last. Well, obviously they're all there from last season, really, apart from Hazard. But they're all playing really well, and then if you add that to the mix of how Mason Mount's performing, how Tammy Abraham's performing, and then put Pulisic's form on top of that, it's almost like they've got the perfect blend at the moment. Now I know that the transfer ban's going for appeal, I believe.
So yeah, it's up for I think they find out towards the end of this month.
But what would you think if it was lifted?
Well, this is what Liam.
What does Lampard do in January?
Honestly, I think if it lifts it, I wouldn't touch. If we maintain, I'm not saying we're going to win every game up until January, but if we maintain sort of 3rd and 4th spot, which I think we will up until the end of the year, personally I wouldn't change too much. I still think maybe a left back. Obviously, we have got Alonso and Emerson, but I think that's one area I think that he may look at. Centre back wise, we've got Rudiger coming back, which probably means Tomori will drop out. I think Lampard's quite keen on Zuma, so I think he'll stay. Maybe so we've got right back. You got Aspilicueta and obviously the youngster Reece James. So I don't really see Lampard going to the board and saying I want such and such, but maybe it's whether the board want him to be signing high-profile players. I don't know. It was the system. We didn't know how it was going to work at the start of the season, especially after the United game. Obviously, losing 4-0 first game of the season, but I think it's worked. And if someone would have said to me that we'd be above Man City in November, I probably would have thought they were a bit strange. But I don't really know.
I think
Quite shocked.
Lampard's got to take a lot of credit for this. I think there was a lot of doubters, me included, before the season, and especially after, like you say, the United game. I think we're all sort of like, yeah, told you so. But I think the board would probably back him even if he didn't want to spend any money because of where they are.
I don't think to be fair, I don't think that they'll get it revoked or whatever. I don't know. Either way, I don't think they'll want to sign too many players in January. Maybe next summer. I think Giroud will be out of contract, and they'll probably try and get rid of Batshuayi, maybe signing another striker. But it all depends who's available. Really, there's no point just signing a high-profile player for the name's sake when you've got Tammy Abraham, who's on course to probably be scoring 20 goals plus this season. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll move on because talking about Chelsea's boring me. About how good
you want to
they
hear
are.
me talk about Spurs, yeah.
They didn't play at the weekend. So we'll go to St Mary's next. So I don't know, with Saints, obviously living in Southampton, you talk to a lot of Saints fans, you hear a lot of stuff in the local press, all that sort of stuff. I mean, they're just so poor from set pieces. I know we've said it before, but a corners or a free kick sort of anywhere near their goal is as good as a goal.
It's exactly what I thought when I was watching the game. It's like they're up to their old tricks of trying to defend set pieces again.
And I mean, this is almost one of those games that, and I don't want to take anything away from Everton because I thought Everton did play pretty well, but Saints lost that, I think, more than Everton winning it. The defending for both goals, as good as the cross is in for Richarlison's winner, the defending is non-existent.
Someone needs to get a foot in before he gets to the ball. I agree with that.
I mean, their goal, I mean, Danny Ings, it's what he's been doing this season. It's sort of like the customary sort of 2-3 yard finish.
He's scoring these goals, otherwise real trouble.
You've got, as a striker, you've got to get yourself in that position. So from that perspective, he's doing the right thing. But 1 point from their last 5 now, Saints, worst goal difference. I know they sort of got tonked 9-0 by Leicester, but they still lost 9-0. I mean, even if you take that away, their goal difference is pretty poor. I feel a bit sorry for the keeper, to be honest. I know that I quite rate Angus Gunn. I think he's a decent keeper, and I don't know whether he's sort of suffering the sort of misfortune, if you like, of being the keeper in the 9-0 game. But I don't necessarily think that game was his fault. They've brought Alex McCarthy back in, but
he had a good game last week, though. McCarthy, when they played City, he made some good saves to keep the score down. But I think the thing is,
I'm not saying he's not a decent keeper, but I just wonder. I mean, they've started they finished last season and started this season with Gunn in goal. I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or something behind the scenes, but Saints need to sort this out. Otherwise, they're going to be in big trouble. I think they just look. They look you can hardly talk being a Spurs fan, but they look no more than average. I think they don't look like a Premier League side.
They didn't improve the squad at all in the summer. They let Charlie Austin go. I think that was probably a bit of a mistake, but
I mean, he weren't scoring either. I mean, I
know.
For the money he was on, bearing in mind he was a free transfer, I think that's well, it is. Yeah, it is options, but it's the same old with Saints for me. They let these players go, but they don't replace them. That they don't bring anyone in that's going to improve the team. But a good win for Everton. Eases the pressure on Marco Silva a bit. I mean, if they had lost that, I think
he would have been gone.
Yeah, he could have been in a lot of trouble. But
I've heard that he will be, either way, he'll probably be going in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Marco Silva or Hasenhüttl?
Silva,
really?
Yeah. Seen it today in the paper saying that they're lining possible candidates up, but They didn't say who.
No. Sorry, I'm just going to... There's been another go at Yeovil. I know we're not doing Yeovil Watch at the moment. Not good news for you, I'm afraid, Chris.
The dream's over.
The FA Cup, the Wembley dream's over. Okay, so we'll go to Old Trafford, Man United, Brighton. I thought United looked good, especially going forward. A lot of pace. They look like a threat.
Martial, Rashford, you got them running at you. You are going to lose a bit of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a bit of luck with the first goal, but I don't think anyone could deny that they didn't deserve to go 1-0 up.
First half, really, didn't they? And even when they got second, it was kind of almost felt like game over at that point because Brighton were quite poor, but.
I think there was a sort of 5-10 minute spell around when Brighton made it 2-1, or just before they made it 2-1, where they sort of came back into the game a bit. I mean, the fact that Rashford scored so quickly afterwards
killed it, really, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was only back on as a contest for sort of a couple of minutes till he scored.
And it was just relentless after the Man United got that third. It was. They were just free flowing going forward, and the goalie, the Brighton goalie, Ryan made some good saves as well. So.
Yeah, but I mean, here's one of my criticisms, if it is a criticism, is that as many goals as Rashford scores, I think he should score more.
He missed it
because his miss was absolutely ridiculous, but he could have had 3 or 4 in that game, and I always kind of feel that when he's playing well and scoring, he should be scoring more. So instead of getting 1, he should be getting 2 or 3, because I think he does miss a lot of chances. I think his conversion rate must be pretty low, I'd imagine, for the amount of chances he has. And it sounds stupid to criticise a goal scorer who is scoring goals, but I just kind of think that maybe it's that miss. I mean, that miss was ridiculous.
Even the commentator was like, 10 out of 10 times he scores that.
Well, yeah. Well, but a game that United should have won, and they did win quite comfortably. So I think that was...
I don't think it doesn't really reflect Brighton too much this season, because they've had a pretty decent start. So
yeah, they have. Yeah,
I think a loss at Old Trafford, I don't think is going to affect them too much.
And I think it was quite on United's second goal, which was given as an own goal. I know that went to VAR because there was a bit of a sort of a scuffle in the box and possibly a foul. But I actually thought it was quite refreshing that VAR, although they looked at it because it was a goal, but common sense prevailed where there was no impediment at all.
It was no.
And it was the right decision. So I thought that was quite a refreshing thing with some of the other stuff that went on with VAR this weekend. So we'll go to Molineux for Wolves 2, Villa 1. Wolves dominated this game. I do think this shows what a different side Villa are without Jack Grealish.
It was definitely noticeable.
They don't seem to have the same sort of drive and ambition as they do when he's playing. Yeah. I don't really think they offered anything at all, really. I mean, obviously, Tom Heaton being injured, and then the second sort of the sub-keeper comes in. But I did think that it would affect it, because you're making a change. It's not your first choice keeper for a start, and then he's injured so early, and almost your third choice keeper comes on.
Yeah.
But the substitute goalie's like the number 1 for the Norwegian national team. Yeah. So he's not some sort of like Sunday league player. I mean, how he's number 1 for his country when he's sort of third choice for no disrespect to Villa, but he's a third choice keeper. I'm not sure, but
yeah. Well, I mean, he did his goal.
Oh yeah, what a goal!
Couldn't do a lot about that, could he? The goal.
No, I mean, I thought both goals were pretty good, to be honest.
That second goal, Troy, he was gone, wasn't he? He was, they struggled
He's an
against him,
animal.
didn't they? They
Yeah,
really. I see he's been called up for the Spain squad as well.
yeah. I
Troy,
had no idea he was Spanish.
No, neither did I. But he was he's just so quick. It's like he's standing still, and then all of a sudden he's gone.
He's on a different planet. That guy. Just going back to the first goal, the Villa defence were paying no attention to the two guys on the edge of the area.
No.
And you almost kind of think that's an easy option, just to lay it across and get a clean shot away. I was surprised
especially with his Neves' scoring record. I think he scores every goal from outside the box. So
yeah.
He'd probably be the first person you'd probably be looking at. You see him unmarked on the edge of the box. Probably something in your head should be saying, "Oh, we should probably go mark him." But they didn't seem to have that lead. Obviously, with Grealish he's the captain for Villa. They kind of, I don't know, just didn't really seem to have a leader on the pitch, and it's obviously a big game for Wolves and Villa fans, obviously as well. So. Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't really offer anything really till they scored, and even when they scored, you kind of knew it was going to come from a set piece.
A good goal as well, wasn't
it was a good goal, but I mean, I think that was the only way Villa were really going to score would be from a set piece. I think Wolves completely dominated. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a good win for Wolves. They're certainly picking up form from their sort of ropey start to the season. So we go to Burnley, West Ham. Now, I think this was summed up for me by, I think it was Declan Rice's sort of post-match interview, where he said that Burnley bullied them,
and I think
there's absolutely.
Well, they were Wood.
That's such an honest assessment of the game.
As well. He was bullying that defense. Every ball that was going in, Burnley were winning it in the air.
But they're not helping themselves, West Ham. It's almost like the whole Saints thing. I mean, they're making these errors that are giving the opposition chances.
They've been poor recently as well.
But I don't think they've won since they beat United. But even Chris Wood's goal that was disallowed, and I mean, it was a great header. But that's almost like, it's one of those close calls. But no one's really that bothered because Burnley was so on top. They were so dominant.
Yeah.
That it's not really even a talking point. And for me, the third goal just sums up West Ham at the moment. It could only happen. And the scary thing is, Spurs are away at West Ham next game after the international break. What a huge 6-pointer that is.
They'll turn up for that game as well, West Ham.
Yeah, probably. But they just don't. All their big players are like your Andersons and sort of players like that. Lanzini.
He's just not.
They just don't seem to be turning up. They don't seem to be playing.
You think how many goals he scored last season as well, and this season you don't ever see him in games. It's just really odd. Do you think they miss Arnautovic?
I think they'd need sort of Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar and Mbappe at the moment. I wouldn't say they miss him. I mean, his thing was sort of the off-field and sort of causing problems, wasn't it? But I mean, I think they're that bad at the moment. I think they would need a lot more than him. I mean, their form is terrible.
Because they've always been a team that have been a bit hit and miss, but for the last 4 games, they really have been miss.
I mean, the only point they've got sort of going back, so the last 5 games, the only point they've got was at home to Sheffield United, and I mean that's not necessarily a bad result, but
sure,
they're well, I mean it's a point against the top 6 side, isn't it?
We drew with them
as
well.
I mean, you're looking at West Ham. I mean, the form. There's going to be sort of a theme, I think, over the next couple of weeks in the Premier League, where if the form of the bottom 3, so Norwich, Saints, and Watford, wasn't as bad as it has been, you could have teams like West Ham, Spurs, Everton that would be in real trouble. So West Ham are 5 points clear of the drop zone, but Watford are on 8 points and they've just won their first game. So that sort of tells you how bad West Ham's form is at the moment, and certainly something that needs to improve quickly. Because I mean, Pellegrino's his head's on the block now, isn't it? Really?
Oh, yeah, he's one of a few, I'd say, in the Premier League at the moment.
I think it's him, Unai
ice.
Emery. It's him, Emery, Pochettino, and Marco Silva. They're the top sort of 4 favourites to get the chop. But let's not take anything away from Burnley. They did bully West Ham and they fully deserved the 3 points. But we're going to Newcastle, Bournemouth. So this was a difficult game to call beforehand, I think, and I think that the game was almost that close that it was as close as we thought it would be. I think Newcastle probably just edged it, but 2 good goals. The Bournemouth's opener from the corner was really well worked, and Yedlin's header.
He's a Superman, isn't he? That
was such a good header. That was such a good header, but Newcastle, I don't know. Would you say they're getting a little bit of form?
It's 2 wins.
Well, but I mean that's it.
That's
I mean,
4.
if you look at the teams sort of down there, so no other team in that sort of areas had 2 wins on the trot. It's a lot of defeats, but I mean,
well, it's
13th place for Newcastle, 15 points, considering the sort of stick Steve Bruce has had, but they've won 3 of their last 5. So they're in decent form.
Definitely improving, and obviously at the start. So who knows? I think I think they'll be safe. I don't think they'll go down. I don't think there's any risk of that. But
no, I don't think they'll go down.
As long as they keep playing as they are, maybe just get a few more goals, because that's where they seem to be lacking at the moment. But
yeah, but onwards and upwards, but a good 3 points against a more than decent Bournemouth side. So we'll go to the game on Friday night. Norwich Watford.
Good start from Norwich, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, if you're
to start a game.
No, but if you're anything to do with Watford, there is no better way to start the game. Not necessarily from the opposition's mistake, but an early goal away from home against a team that is struggling just as much as you are. You couldn't have wished for a better start, I don't think.
No, we all know how bad Norwich have been as well. I think Watford played on that a lot, and they just, without a shadow of doubt, they deserve to win that game. And obviously, they get their first win of the season. So,
are Norwich in trouble? Do you think?
Oh yeah. More trouble. I think if you go by what we've seen in the last sort of 6 weeks, I'd say they're a dead cert to go down now.
I think that beginning of the season, they were probably even out of the 3 teams that came up, the one that I thought would have the best shot of staying up. I'd completely flip that on its head now. I agree. They're not scoring goals, and you are not going to get anywhere without scoring. Because that's the whole point.
He had, obviously, after they beat City, it was so hard to believe they beat City, but they did have a lot of injuries around that time, but he's got players back now, and they look a worse team for it as well, which is strange to say, really, that the sort of fringe players were playing better than what the first team were. So
they're away at Norwich next, which no, it's Norwich. Sorry, they're away at Everton. Sorry, I'm not sure you'd have a lot of faith of them getting something from that game, really. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think they might be in a bit of trouble this season. I think they'll probably be favourites for the drop now.
Well, speaking of trouble.
Yeah, speaking of trouble, I don't even know why we put this at the end. We should have just completely ignored it.
Right, I'll just say what I've got to say. I thought I spoke to you today. the disallowed goal, he is offside. There's no doubt in that. But it's just the sheer, the scale of it is just ridiculous. Like I know, like, he's offside, but seriously, by a toe, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, the thing I would say on that is I think that I'll always refer back to Son being offside for Spurs against Leicester, and looking back, that's almost like a huge turning point in Spurs' season, because if that goal had stood and we were 2-0 up with sort of 20-25 minutes to go, it may have put a sort of completely different complexion on our season. But that offside call was so close that I think that's almost the bar that's been set now, that you are going to have offside calls where it is literally the smallest of margins, but they will be called offside. And I think from a VAR perspective, offsides last season was probably one of, if not the biggest sort of point that was debated in football, and I think it almost clears that up.
As long as they keep it consistent with that, I think offside is one of the easier ones to call now with VAR, because they got the little lines, haven't they? So
but that's the only one that isn't. It's almost there's no interpretation.
Yeah.
There's no sort of judgment on that. It is black or white. There's no sort of my view is this or my opinion is that. So you almost can't argue with it.
They've got that, but would you say a draw was a fair result?
Or did you think that? No, I mean, my brother went to the game, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he pretty much said that either team could have won it.
Sheffield United had a good chat towards the end of the game.
Yeah, they
Sheffield
did.
United probably could have won it. But
I mean, I look at it from the perspective
you go as a whole.
Well, I mean, look at it. I mean, Spurs took the lead from a defensive error from Sheffield United, and if that error hadn't have occurred, I'm not sure Spurs would have scored. So I don't think Spurs offered that much going forward at all. And from what I've read and listening to it on the radio and seeing the highlights on telly, I would say Sheffield United probably just edged it. I know their away form is brilliant. They're having a really good season, and I don't mean any disrespect to them at all, but Spurs should be playing them off the park at home.
I said that. We ended up drawing with them as well. They're a hard team to break down.
They are, but these are. But I'd say the same about Chelsea. Chelsea should have been playing them off the park.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think at home they're a different proposition, but these are consistently sort of top 4, top 6 sides in the Premier League. And I'm not taking anything away from Sheffield United at all. And I would say that I probably think they deserve to win the game. But the frustration for me with Spurs, and sort of especially at the moment, and I mean, Harry Kane was almost non-existent in this game. I don't think he played well at all. I don't think he didn't create chances. I mean, I know there's sort of issues with if he's not getting the service, what do we expect him to do? But the whole thing that sums this up for me is Christian Eriksen, where Poch has got him on the bench. We're struggling to break down Sheffield United, and then, like I say, I mean, we get the goal through a defensive error in the end, but we're struggling to break them down. When we do score, they equalise, I mean, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And he's normally the sort of player that, I mean, he did against Villa in the first game of the season. He's the sort of player that you would bring on to unlock a defence, or to make that killer pass to make a difference. He didn't bring him on. Now, if he's not going to bring him on in that sort of situation, I don't even know why he's on the bench. Why would you have him on the bench if you're not going to use him?
Yeah.
And this whole, I mean, midweek. So in the midweek against Red Star, Spurs went away. I mean, a great result, 4-0. Lo Celso scores, he has a good game. Sort of Spurs fans on social media are raving about how good he is. And then after the game Saturday, everybody's saying that he won't be able to cut it in the Premier League. He's not good enough for the Premier League. And I just think that sums up Spurs at the moment. And I am writing this season off. And like I said to you, it's a good... For Spurs, it's a good point against a top 6 side, and it's a point closer to safety.
Just quickly before we finish it, do you think Poch knows what to do at the moment with the squad? Do you think he hasn't got?
No, but I don't think
it's.
I don't know. But I don't think the squad's deep enough to cover the issues that he's got. I mean, like, Alderweireld's not playing, but I mean, I'm not sure whether he's injured or what. But he's at the zoo. I mean, he's putting pictures on Instagram.
Are you tracking him?
No, he's on Instagram. He's at the zoo, and like Vertonghen's not playing. I mean, Eric Dyer has had a massive dip in form for me. Yeah. And then you've got Christian Eriksen on the bench, and he's not getting. Don't have him on the bench, in my opinion. I mean, Harry Winks doesn't seem to be playing. I mean, he took Dele Alli off and put Foyt on, and I'm not sure whether that's because Sheffield United changed their tactics or we were 1-0 up and he wanted to shut up shop. I mean, if that's the case, then that's just ridiculous.
It didn't work.
But I don't think. I mean, and we're being linked with every player in the summer. We're being linked with goalkeepers. We're being linked with Memphis Depay. Sorry, we've been linked with for sort of 70 odd million. I mean, he's not going to go out and spend hundreds of millions in the January transfer window. No. It's just not going to happen. So it will just be an underachieving, under sort of subpar season from Spurs, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
You can stop talking about him now, mate. It's getting you down.
I'll tell you now, the worst thing would be if we finish third in our Champions League group and we go into the Europa League. Well, actually, that could be a good thing because it'd probably be the best shot we've got of getting into the Champions League next season. But
so maybe, yeah, that's not
Spurs
bad idea,
will be last.
Just get kicked out of the Champions League to go into the Europa League to then qualify for the Champions League. It's not a bad plan, actually.
No, well, Spurs will be last. Spurs will be last in our reviews for every season, every week now. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, but that wraps it up for the Premier League review. So we will come back in part 2 where we'll start off with the action from the Championship and the other EFL divisions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this week's View from the Sideline podcast. So we're going to start part 2 with the review of the EFL League. So we'll start in the Championship. So West Brom, they remain top of the table on 33 points after a 1-0 win away at Hull. They're still still only a single defeat this season for the Baggies. And Saturday's win was their third in their last 5 games. Preston remain in second on goal difference after a 3-1 win at home to Huddersfield and have 31 points, as do Leeds, who are in third. They beat Blackburn 2-1. Swansea were the only team in the top 6 not to win. They were held to a 2-2 draw away at Sheffield Wednesday. Nottingham Forest and Bristol City make up the playoff places after wins against Derby and Cardiff, respectively. At the bottom, Barnsley remain without a win in their last 5. They lost 4-2 at home to Stoke, a win which sees Stoke lift off the bottom of the table at the expense of Barnsley.
New manager as well, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and Neil Warnock's left Cardiff today as well.
Yeah, I saw.
So a few changes in the Championship. Middlesbrough, they occupy the final relegation place despite a point in a 2-2 draw at QPR. Now, with regards to League One, and be the same for League Two as well, there weren't any games at the weekend due to the FA Cup. But just to give you a reminder of where they were. So Ipswich, they're top on goal difference from Wickham, who were in second. Peterborough, they're 5 points behind the top two in third. And then there's 3 teams that are joint on 26 points with only goal difference separating them. And they're Oxford, Fleetwood and Coventry. So just from an FA Cup perspective, so Ipswich drew 1-1 with Lincoln and Wickham drew 2-2 with Tranmere. So the top two in League One are going to a replay. At the other end, Bolton, they do remain bottom, but they have cut their points deficit to a -2 after 2 wins on the spin. They did lose at the weekend in the Cup to Plymouth 1-0. But they're only 7 points behind Southend, who are on a run of 4 straight defeats. MK Dons, they're in the final relegation place, and they're also on a terrible run of form, losing 4 of their last 5. Wimbledon, they're only outside of the relegation zone on goal difference. So MK Dons and Wimbledon level on points. But I like to do it, Chris. So where would Bolton be without their points deduction? So they'd be
still
on
above,
30.
Still above Southend?
They would be above Southend, yeah.
Good.
That just shows how bad Southend starts the season has been. Do you want to just give us a quick update on League Two,
Yeah,
Chris?
so League Two, it is still pretty tight at the top. Forest Green on 31. Bradford, Swindon and Crewe in that order from 2nd, 3rd and 4th are all on 30. Exeter 5th on 29, Cheltenham 6th on 28 and Newport on 27 in 7th. Morecambe are still bottom of the pile, though they are joint 13 points with Stevenage. They have a worse goal difference. Some of the FA Cup results. So there was quite a bit of a giant killer. Leyton Orient lost to Malden and Tiptree.
Yeah, I think they're in the 8th tier.
8th tier, yeah.
That is a big upset, yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite a big upset. And also, Kingstonian away beat Macclesfield away 4-0. So that's another non-league side through. Quite a big win over Macclesfield there. Obviously, Plymouth beaten Bolton of League One. There was a few games of an all League Two tie. So there was Swindon and Cheltenham, who are both in the top 6. They drew 1-1. And there was also another one between Cambridge and Exeter that ended 1-1. I think there was like 4 all League Two ties, and they all finished draws. So yes, it was pretty close. Just going on, obviously the Yeovil game was postponed at the weekend due to a waterlogged pitch, but the game has actually been rescheduled for tonight, and it is not going well for Yeovil because they've just conceded they've just conceded a 4, and they're down to 10 men as well. So I won't be going to Wembley, see Yeovil at Wembley this season.
The dream is over. You can score too early.
Although the dream is not over for our team, our following team, is it?
I wish we had a fanfare at this point because it has finally happened.
Finally got a team through a round.
We have. So Altrincham, who are our team for the podcast's feature, so they went away to York City at the weekend in the first round of the FA Cup, and they won. Just to give you some details on the match. So in the National League North, so both Altrincham and York are in that division. York they were on a 19-game unbeaten run before the weekend, so that sort of gives you an indication of what a challenge Altrincham were up against. It was on BBC, so it was good to watch the team that we that we've got in this feature. So I mean, it was actually a good game. Quite sort of close earlier on. Altrincham did have a few chances early on, and they were putting a lot of pressure on the York defence. Newton hit the bar for York with a decent free kick from the edge of the area, which was probably the biggest sort of threat to the Altrincham goal in the first half. So it was goalless at the break, and then into the second half, Altrincham, they did ride their luck a bit. So York were awarded a penalty. There was a bit of a rash challenge from the Altrincham keeper, Tony Thompson, which gave away a penalty, but he did redeem himself with a good save, getting down to his right-hand side. And then the follow-up was smashed against the bar. So you could say that the Altrincham goal was living a bit of a charmed life at that point. But then in the 82nd minute, a goal on the break. So Tom Pearce scored a decent goal, really. Like I said, it was on the break, a decent ball to set him up. And he's put it away, a very good finish. So they went into the hat for the second round, and they've drawn Portsmouth.
Ooh.
So Portsmouth,
that's dangerous territory for you, Reg.
It is Portsmouth away, but I think from a podcast perspective, we might be able to get down to see it, which would be good. So yeah, but congratulations to Altrincham. They're a first for the podcast. We've
just a quick one. Liam's messaged me. He's just messaged me saying Cheltenham are having a mad game tonight. I was a bit confused. So I just looked, and they're playing in the EFL Trophy against Newport County, and the game is Cheltenham 4, Newport 7. It was
that's a game.
It was 5-3 to 4. It was 5-3 to Newport at half time.
God, I mean, there's plenty of goals around in that tournament tonight, and some sending offs.
6 now, yeah. Oh, mad.
5 sending offs. Crikey, 7-4. That's a game, isn't it? EFL Trophy. That's the non-league one, isn't it? Sorry, I'm thinking of the Carabao Cup. I'm thinking, why are they playing in that?
No, it's the one that the Premier Under-21 team.
Yeah, I think because Spurs Under-23s have lost to Gillingham tonight. So anyway. A great win for Altrincham into the hat for the second round, and a decent draw away at Pompey. So congratulations to them. So we'll move on to predictions very quickly. So our first tie of the season last week, where James was our guest, so 9s all round. I did speak to him on Monday, I think it was, yesterday. Because there was a late goal, so the late Huddersfield goal with sort of, I think, 5 minutes left, and also there was a really early goal in that game as well, which stopped him getting the golden goal in the Liverpool game. So it could have been very different, which was the same for him last season, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
At half time, he was like getting the highest ever point score ever. But the same thing sort of has happened to him this week. And then this week, no Premier League and Championship action. So we've got a Euro qualifier special with Dave as our special guest this week. So we'll get the matches out online, and then we'll be posting the results after the games at the weekend. But as always, you can go onto the website at vftsl.co.uk for all the details about the predictions challenge, and also any other details about the podcast. So Chris, it's your time to shine. Wonders of White.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So Kingstonian have recorded the biggest win for a non-league side against a league side since 1973, when Walton and Hersham beat Brian Clough's Brighton 4-0. Manchester City have won 25 points from 12 Premier League games this season, the lowest ever total from a Pep side at this stage of a top-flight campaign. Prior to the match on Saturday, Cesar Azpilicueta had started each of Chelsea's last 73 Premier League games, dating back to December 2017. This was the longest current run of any outfield player, which is now being held by Nathan Ake, who is on now 65 starts in a row. And lastly, Ryan Fraser has registered 16 assists in the Premier League since the start of last season, which is more than any other player.
And I read today that he's in advanced talks with Liverpool, apparently, for a January transfer.
Blimey.
Be an interesting one. Okay, so we can't avoid it any longer. So we better go back to Pete's teaser. So West Ham's
about this one, right?
West Ham's
about-
all-time leading scorer
What
in
about
the
Mark
Premier
Noble?
League.
How many goals has he scored? He's been there for years, hasn't he, Mark Noble?
Yeah, I think he's been there a while. I was thinking Di Canio or Freddie Canute, Andy Carroll.
Mate, I literally have no idea. I have.
Did he even play 47 games, Andy Carroll?
I don't know.
I tell you what, Chris. Bearing in mind, I think he's their penalty taker. Should we go for Noble?
All right.
Yeah, let's go for
give
Noble.
Me 1 minute.
We'll go with a bit of a sort of left field answer.
So
if it's
third was Carlton Cole with 41.
Oh, I never would have got that.
Mark Noble was second.
Oh, damn you!
Which means that we did mention him actually. It was Paolo Di Canio on 47. So Mark Noble is 4 off Di Canio's. So he needs 5 to beat the record. So
yeah, but at time of recording, he's not. Okay, so 7-5. He's got us this week. So thanks, Pete. Thanks for the teaser. I'm sure we'll have another one next week. See if we can regain for today, Chris. Again, lots of action. We're going into an international break, so we won't have a podcast next week. And depending how Spurs get on against West Ham,
Chelsea.
You got City, haven't you? Yeah. So we may not have a podcast the week after.
I'll still be here because we'll still be in the top 4. So
yeah, that is it. Maybe we should give Liam a call. See if he's free. Okay, but so thanks for listening. As always, please subscribe for YouTube and follow us on social media if you like what you're hearing. And we appreciate all the support. So thanks for listening.
See you later.